So yeah, that's dev blogging. That's deb. Hey Matt,
Hey, Mike.
should we do a podcast?
You know what? I think we should.
Okay. Welcome to Hacking the Grepson, a podcast about programming and development and adjacent topics. I am Mike. I'm here with Matt, and today we're going to talk about dev blogging, or just blogging in general with maybe a development or programming-centric slant on it. Do you blog, Matt?
I used to, and I technically have a blog, but I don't think I've updated it in 10 years. So no.
Okay. Well, why did you blog when you did?
Because everyone else I knew was blogging, and that was how we all kept in touch socially. Like you.
So, are you referring to things such as LiveJournal, perhaps?
I am, in fact, referring to LiveJournal. It's hard to consider Twitter or Facebook or any of that blogging. I guess it is in some ways, but it really isn't.
I mean, when the internet was first introduced and people besides scientists and educators were on it, you would put a website up and you'd put some text on it. And that was essentially the extent of web logging, which became blogging. But then stuff like WordPress became very popular, which is a very easy place where you can sign up for an account and start blogging, which basically just means you start posting, things on the internet. You say new post and give it a title and start putting some words in there and hit post, and then other people can see it. And LiveJournal was big back in the day for people of my particular vintage.
Yep. That's how we met.
Yeah, I'd kind of forgotten about that. I mean, I met my wife through LiveJournal, so
I technically met mine through LiveJournal as well, just not directly.
Yeah, it was huge back in the I don't know,
early
aughts.
2000s.
Yeah. But then I remember that it changed and it got sold to some Russian company, and everybody stopped using it. And I think it still exists.
I don't know why we stopped using it. It's just one of those days we just stopped. I ran out of things to say. I mean, who cares what I have to say anyway?
Well, I think what happened actually is that something like Twitter, actually Facebook, probably Facebook first, and then Twitter kind of roughly the same time, which I would refer to something like LiveJournal or using a WordPress blog, or, there's many other competitors that are smaller and less known, but that's macro blogging, which basically just means long form. Whereas Twitter,
I thought that's where I recorded a blog and then played it back to make it easier to record the blog.
And you did a keyboard shortcut, and it and then Twitter and stuff of that ilk was micro blogging, because it was they had a limit on how many characters, whereas a normal blog there's no limit. You can make it as long as you want to. But yeah, I think that's what happened. I think stuff like that, social media came out, and then everybody stopped blogging, and everybody just did little tweets and Facebooks, and now it's X's, I guess. Which, anyway, that's the state of the internet. But blogging is I mean, it kind of comes from diaries and journals of the before internet times, when people would have a book that they would write their daily whatevers that they did. Said, dear diary, dear journal, I did this today. And I mean, it's a way to keep a record of something that happened. And
as someone who doesn't have a good memory, especially for events from my own life, I wish I had kept one when I was a youth.
Yeah. So you're saying there's no record of your youth digitally?
Nope.
Okay.
I'm a ghost.
And you're fine with it just being lost to the ether?
No, I wish I had it, but
okay.
Nothing I can do about it. I don't have a time machine yet.
Yeah. No, I saw a classified ad for someone working on one of those. You should answer that and help him out.
Great, Scott.
That was actually a movie. where someone answered a. Okay, I wasn't sure. You weren't showing recognition.
I was trying to remember the name of the movie, but it wasn't occurring to me.
I can't think of what it was. Yeah, anyway, definitely not Hot Tub Time Machine. That's a totally different time machine movie.
Yeah.
And not a DeLorean. That's a different time machine. But blogging. Okay, so blogging is just basically long form writing where generally people write about a topic and they just explain their thoughts on something. And dev blogging, more specifically, is writing down something that happened when you were programming or when you were creating or developing something. Like, hey, I found this interesting code that I was working on, or I had this difficulty and here's how I got around it, or something like that. I made the transition from regular personal blogging to dev blogging and actually kept, not regularly, but I kept sort of writing development stuff even after the death of LiveJournal. And I'm looking at and I was one of those people who did it in a few different places and then eventually brought it all together and mashed it all into a bunch of markdown files that are now on like kind of my personal website, which has a blog. And I'm looking at my archives, and at least of the ones from 2009 till now, so the last 15 years of data, I have 208 public posts.
Wow.
So I'm carrying this podcast is what I'm saying.
Yeah. I don't post things publicly. People might hear what I think.
So I'm curious. Like,
this is all private, right? We're not recording this.
Right. No, this is all off the record. But I'm just curious. Like, I think you and I may have a different, I don't know if opinion, but at least like gut feeling about the value or usefulness of blogging. Since obviously I kept doing it, I'm still doing it. I don't do it that often. I mean, if I look at the last year. So far, I only have 7. So, it's like months go before I think of something that coalesces into a blog post. But like, do you wish that you did this? Is this something that you would find value in, but you just don't, it's not a priority, or what?
I feel like I don't know that I would find value in blogging. And I guess that's where I get stuck. So I'm very interested in hearing what value you find you get from it. I always think of it as like, and I said it half joking earlier, but like, who cares what I have to say, right? Mm-hmm. Who's going to read this? We've joked before about this podcast, like who's listening? Like, hi, Mike's mom, right?
Hey, mom.
Yeah. But there's reasons that we do this, and maybe I would, and I get something out of this, so maybe I'd get something out of writing down weblog stuff. I think the problem is I feel this way about just about any creative endeavor. I'm like, someone's already. I'm not inventing the wheel here, This is I don't have anything unique or worthwhile to say, and I don't think I'm a good enough writer to say it in an interesting way. But maybe that's just me being extraordinarily
self-critical,
low self-confidence.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the reasons you give are perfectly valid and true reasons, because you are a terrible writer. No, they're very common issues that people give. And I mean, obviously, despite the fact that I've kept up some sense of blogging, I remember back in the LiveJournal days, I would blog sometimes multiple times a day. Now, of course, I was just really bored. And so it was really like just a time killer. I don't think that's why I blog anymore, because if I did, I would be blogging a lot more.
We were also young and didn't, we had fewer responsibilities, and we probably thought our thoughts were more unique back then than we do now. We didn't have the experience
to know that we are not special or interesting. Right. Nope. This is a real bummer of a podcast.
I'm sorry, man. You asked my opinion. Don't do that if you don't want to know the truth.
Well, so I'm gonna come back at that with 2 reasons. Like, one, I think that everybody is at least, I don't know if an expert on something, but you are an expert on your experience. Like, literally, your experience in the world is unique, because unless we figure out cloning technology for humans, you are literally a unique human in that you are the only person that is you. And so the way you write and the way you think and feel about things will never be perfectly mimicked or mirrored by someone else. And so there's value in that. And then 2, I actually have 3. 2, is that I feel that when I blog, it's sort of like, especially development blogging, because usually like I'm looking at the last year of posts, and the posts that I've made are about basically web apps that I've worked on, 2 posts about like the new job that I got and like kind of the feelings about how it's going and what I'm learning and what I'm doing. And then a couple more that are just kind of random like development programming stuff that I found interesting. When I write them, I'm kind of forcing myself to like, wait, do I actually know what I think I know about this thing? And so the process of writing it out, sort of like teaching it. It's like, I'm like, okay.
That's exactly what I was going to compare it to.
Yeah. If someone didn't know anything about the thing I'm doing, I'm always trying to write with a bit of an audience in mind. Sort of, it probably has something to do with this podcast. Like I kind of think about when I talk about technical stuff, I'm like, okay, it's not just my own brain. It's not just your brain. It's like anybody that might be consuming this, try to make it as general and accessible as possible. So I'm like, okay, let's go through the steps. How do I actually think that I know this? So that's the second one, is kind of, do I know what I'm talking about? And then 3, it's just record keeping. Like I can go back to, 2014, which was 10 years ago. And I'm like, oh, that's right. I worked on a random script to send email via Gmail from like a Mac OS terminal. Like 10 years ago, I didn't know about doing that. And I wanted to write a script so that I could just type a command and it would send an email, but used Google's email servers. That's what I did 10 years ago. I was playing with Ruby Audio 10 years ago. If you asked me what I was doing 10 years ago, I would not be able to tell you, but here it is. That's what I was working on.
I have no idea what I was doing 10 years ago.
Yeah.
So playing video games.
Well, I was also doing that. It's just that like, that's maybe not as interesting.
I wonder if that also helps. I've noticed that you are, of the two of us, you are much more inclined to actually do like computer projects outside of work. Like you seem to have the motivation to do that, whereas I often don't these days. And, I just blame I'm always tired.
Yeah.
But like maybe that's it, right? Like having the dev blog as like almost an audience for like it, and it kind of encourages you to do things so that you have something to talk about on the blog and this podcast.
Yeah.
Which I never have because I don't. That's why you have to come up with all the topics.
I mean, that's definitely part of it. I mean, there's something about my personality that I think I've only maybe in the last 5 to 10 years really, come to terms with, that like I really, really like having projects going on, multiple projects. Like I like to look at a checklist or just a to-do list of like, oh yeah, I'm working on these 5 different random creative projects. I haven't worked on that one in a while. Let's obsess about that for a week. And then I'm getting kind of bored of that. Let's do the next one. And so, yeah, I kind of always have random stuff that I'm working on. Thus, I have something to write about. But still, because of the way that I'm writing them now, whereas back in LiveJournal days, I would just be like, I'm bored. I saw this cool thing on the internet. Okay, hit post. I'd rather have something with more substance. So I wait until I actually have like a topic with,
So are you almost treating it like journalism to some extent, where you're like actually like, okay, I'm going to sit down and like, I'm going to craft this and, go through some reviews and really think about what it is that I want to say. Not just off the top of your head, stream of consciousness, which is how I write everything.
Well, and I mean, for something that's microblogging like Twitter, that's what that's for. That's for the like, or that's what I use Mastodon for now, where I'm just like, okay, I had a thought. But even then, I still don't post very much on there. Like, I post less now than I did 20 years ago in general. But yes, I do think about these blog posts as more of like, yeah, this could almost be an article I'm writing for, an online publication where like they asked for a blog about a thing. Okay, well, let me put that together. And it might take me all day on and off to get it. And I'll read over it and I'll think about it and I'll make edits after it goes up there. Yeah, I do that.
What's interesting,
I caught it.
Yeah, so someone do that to me.
They would do that to you.
No, that's the thing. I'm really good at doing something if I feel like it's going to benefit someone else. Yeah. I'm like the most motivated person in the world. if I can't convince myself that someone's going to care or find useful what I would have to say, I would have a really hard time writing it. But approaching it from a journalistic standpoint almost seems interesting.
I never thought about it that way. That's putting the whole thing in a very different light. Because if I go
This
back
is how
to
I think about everything.
Yeah. If I go back to 2009, which is the oldest public record of blogging I have, which includes LiveJournal, but most of the LiveJournal posts are all private. I just have them like on my computer somewhere saved. But the stuff that's on the internet that people can read, the oldest post is from January 27th, 2009, and it was when I got posted on Kotaku. If you remember Kotaku, the video game culture website that got bought by Gawker and is a shell of its former self now. I wonder if this link even works. I'm clicking on the link. It does still exist on Kotaku's site. That's amazing. Yeah, this is from 15 years ago. Basically, I wrote a soundtrack for a non-existent video game. Because I'm like, well, making a video game at 2009 was like, I can't do that. But I like music, so I'll write a soundtrack. I've played enough JRPGs. I could write a JRPG soundtrack, like Final Fantasy, whatever. So I wrote it, and I'm not sure where I posted it. I might have actually sent it to Kotaku, because I had the gall to think that it was interesting enough.
The audacity.
And they actually posted it, and the link to the soundtrack no longer works. But it's still there, and it still has does it still have the comments? I remember the comments. The comments were kind of brutal. Because now that I look about it, it's not as great as it could have been, but
comments are awful. This is like the worst part of the internet.
Yeah.
And I love comment. I love to participate in comment threads. I do not like to create anything that can generate comment threads.
Well, I only got on Kotaku once ever. So this was my one claim to fame of being on like a major website ever that, isn't Reddit occasionally. But anyway, like that's as far back as it goes. And but like that's something that I wouldn't necessarily make a blog post about anymore because I'm trying to be, I guess, more grown up, more professional with my blog. And I'm more like, okay, if I'm going to make a blog, I want it to be not humorless, but serious and about a substantial topic and make it good and double check that it's, that it is legit, like you said, like journalism. And I never really thought about that, but I guess that high school newspaper that I was in never quite goes away. So I'm guessing you don't follow like any dev blogs, or do you?
So that was going to be my next question for you. I used to follow a couple, ages ago.
Yeah.
Joel Spolsky comes to mind as someone that I followed years and years and years ago. Less about dev though, and more about the dev experience, the like work culture, and like he had opinions on like offices and stuff like that, and that spoke to me. And I've read some blogs by folks that are more in the design space, but I've never really gotten into like what I think you mean when you say dev blog, which is more of the like talking about the actual practice of coding and whatnot.
Is that just because you think you're better than all those people? And what can
No, it's because I haven't ever encountered one that is interesting. Probably because I haven't gone out and looked for them. That actually seems like a great thing for me to do. I stumbled on the Joel Spolsky one and some of the other ones I've read over the years. And just for whatever reason, probably because I'm not really in social media spaces about dev culture either, and people don't really share things at work about these things. Like it's not coming to me, so I don't experience it.
Yeah, I mean, I get that, and honestly, there was a point where probably, like I said, when the microblogging took off, like Twitter and stuff, that I remember what changed was the death of Google Reader. Google Reader was like, RSS is cool because Google's got a website for it. And then they're like, that computer running under that guy's desk that was doing it, we're turning that off. This is over. And I remember that was kind of a schism, and RSS became less cool. And I mean, RSS is just a way to consume content on the internet, but that's generally how I follow blogs. I follow their RSS feed, and then I just have a site that lists them all. But I think a lot of people fell off doing that. Like it wasn't the next generation coming up of coders didn't really get into that. I guess they're more. I don't even know how they consume like new content or blogs or information about programming.
YouTube.
You really? You think they just watch YouTube to get? I mean,
I know that there's a ton of stuff that's in that vein out there, and someone's watching it.
I shouldn't be so high and mighty because I literally just watched like about 20 or 30 minutes of this guy last night. Well, that sounded really weird to just trail off.
I was going to just let it go, Mike. I wasn't going to comment. You're the one who said something. I didn't even make a face. I was like very neutral.
So this programmer,
freaking creeper.
This programmer on YouTube who just does kind of like old retro hacking projects. Like the thing that I watched was he spent like it was like a 15-minute video, and it was trying to get Diablo 2 to run with a modern graphics API. So apparently like it ran on like the Glide API. I don't really know what that is. And the newer version is like Vulkan. And so he like went in and like debugged and disassembled and patched all this kind of stuff so that it would run Diablo 2 using a different graphics API. Like and showing the assembly and everything. There's definitely lots of programming content on YouTube, and yes, I do watch some of it. There's some cool breakdowns of like old retro stuff and how they wrote Super Mario Brothers, like the assembly code of moving memory and sprites and optimization. So you're right. YouTube is big, but I would say blogging wise, it's still nice to be able to look at the code and reflect on it and get someone's thoughts that you can just read, because generally we read faster than we process video.
Look, if you want to put me up on a soapbox to rant for a while, I can about this topic. I'm not going to go too deep into it, but specifically, I hate that if you go to learn anything these days and you want to know, like, instead of pictures and words, it's video. Everything is a video. Everyone takes 30 minutes to tell you something that I could read in 15 seconds to be, I don't know, entertaining. Hey, I don't know the reason. Like, just get to the point.
Yeah.
I actually do know the reason. It's, SEO and it's... the
algorithm and...
Yeah, it's all that. And
it's just
hoping to get
where
paid.
Are the people? It's like where are the people and where are they looking for information? And then you need to be there providing content.
Maybe that's what I need. I just need to become the person who's writing these things down in short, little digestible chunks instead of having to watch the videos. Because I as always, it happens every year or so. I decided that I want to try to write a video game because that's what my brain does.
Yep.
And I'm like, all right, let's do this. All right, what framework am I going to use? What engine is it going to be? How's it going to work? What do I need to know? Blah, 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 right? And then every tutorial is someone talking at you. And I don't want that. I want a textbook.
Yeah. So I just wanted to highlight a few of the dev, because I probably follow maybe 30 or 40 dev blogs. Obviously, most of them are not active, and I probably should prune them, but just generally how I find them is like I'm searching for an answer to something, and the answer is on someone's blog. They're like, oh, I had this issue. Here's how I fixed it. If you don't find it on Stack Overflow, or you ask ChatGPT, which is just reading Stack Overflow and regenerating it.
But it saves you the trouble of having to read Stack Overflow.
Right, it does. But there are some people who blog about their solutions to things, and thankfully they put it on the internet. And some of the people that I've read over the past are Jeff Atwood. He is, speaking of Stack Overflow, I believe he created it or was co-creator of Stack Overflow, and he's had a blog since 2004. There's a person named Julia Evans, who I see, she's a prolific Mastodon poster. And she She makes zines. Remember zines?
I do remember zines.
Yeah. So, not that the people who are listening to this can see, but you can see, Matt, that this is a printed out version of a zine that she makes that I ordered. She has a few of this. This one is specifically how Git works, as in the repository version control system.
That's fun.
Yeah. So she has a great blog, and she, maybe posts a couple times a month or something like that at most. And it's just, things like entering text in the terminal is complicated. Migrating mess with DNS to use Power DNS. Reasons I still love the fish shell. Just she's using computers. She's doing programming and development. She comes across something interesting. She makes a blog post about it.
Well, and I like that these are things I like posts, because one of the reasons I stopped blogging, I think, was I just felt like I was complaining about things. And I don't see the point of that. I blame politics for that, because it got all my vitriol, and that became what I was used to writing about. Yeah. And so, writing like, hey, I enjoyed doing this thing, as opposed to this is wrong and people that don't use object programming are wrong, right? Yeah, positive. That seems like it could be nice.
Yeah, it is very nice. And there's a few more that I could go over, but generally it's like I said, I'm trying to fix something, or I'm using something, and I'm going on the internet to look for help about that thing or information about that thing. And I come across someone who has a dev blog, and they've worked on it, or they fixed a solution with it. I follow it. I find their writing, either interesting or helpful or educational. And I'm like, they're cool. So I add them to my RSS feeds. And then when they come up with a new one, just like on YouTube, I watch a random YouTube by someone that I didn't know. I like their video. I subscribe, so I get more of their videos. I mean, it's the same kind of just, it's like I'm just collecting interesting people that write about development. And so that's just years and years of doing that. And now I have a huge list of people, and, a lot of them drop off and stop blogging like me. They'll go months where they don't put anything on there, and you kind of wonder, are they still out there? It's kind of funny, because you think like, this is my only connection to this human being is whether they post on their blog. And if they stop posting, are they alive? Are they? No. Yeah. So they go ghost mode for a while.
I think, do you find that you learn much from reading blogs, like that it is like, oh, I didn't know that. That's an interesting technique or algorithm or concept or whatever? Or is it just like, yes, I agree with this opinion that this person has, and I also have this opinion. Or no, I don't, and I'm angry. Like, what is it out of those things that draws you back to those from a reading perspective?
I would say that, it's more that, like I said, they have insight that I don't have, and I appreciate that they write about it in a digestible / entertaining way, and I keep going back because of the style. It's sort of like, obviously it has to be well written, and it has to be at least, it doesn't have to be entertaining, like funny, haha, but it's got to be written in a way that doesn't feel like a textbook. And I would say most people who put dev blogs on the internet don't write like textbooks, because if you want that, you go to the documentation. It's like they're adding a layer on top of what could just be documentation for a thing that you don't understand or that you're having trouble with. It's a personality, it's a stylistic choice, it's word choice, it's the topics they choose to talk about. And generally it's not, because it's development specific, because it's not like a personal blog where someone's just giving an opinion about something that you could disagree with. It's more like, here's a programming language example that wasn't working, then I fixed it. Here's how I fixed it. It's not really an opinion. They either fixed it or they didn't, and you either can use it or can't use it. So hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah, I think so.
It's a very different kind of blogging than like, I don't know, if Joe Rogan had a blog and you read that, like that's a very different kind of blog, and that's not the kind of blogging that I'm thinking about, And I will say that, like, I often add people on Mastodon, for example, which is microblogging because they do have a limit of 500 characters per post. I will often follow someone initially because they were talking about something interesting that I liked, but then it will turn into more of a personal blogging where like, oh, I did this thing where I went to my garden and I found 5 tomatoes and I ate them and they were great. And I'm like, that's cool, kind of, but it's like, that's not why I follow you. And so it kind of rides this line between like, it's harder for those people to stick in my list. And also you need a separation of concerns. And that's something that I've consciously tried to do with my blog now, is that I went on a cool vacation and I want to talk about it. That's what LiveJournal would have been. But now it's like, no, that's not what I would make a post about, because I'm trying to be more helpful, not informational, like I'm talking to the whole world on Twitter and I hope everybody hears my wonderful thoughts. So maybe if you think about it in that way, you might be more interested in doing it if you don't think that it's just Twitter writ large,
Yeah, I'll have to think about that.
Just thought things. I mean,
I'll write a blog about it.
Good. Most of my friends that I know don't blog. They do Facebook, Twitter. So they dropped off if they ever did LiveJournal, and then they never went back. And I miss the long-term thought process because I only hang out with cool, interesting people who think about cool things and do cool things, but most of them don't write about it. Like, I know you do woodworking. I would love to read a blog where you just write about the projects you've done and what you thought about them and the problems you had and et cetera, et cetera. Like, only you, Matt, know about your experience with woodworking. So if you made a blog about that, no one else could replicate that, just for instance. And it might help, solidify the process and the memories of like the good things that you made and the splinters you got and the limbs you lost, that kind of stuff.
I have scars for most of those.
Yeah, take pictures of those scars. No, don't.
Why do you have this cut? Why do you have stitches on this finger? Oh, I was working on this thing.
There's definitely an element of like, navel gazing. You have to accept that there's a little navel gazing about blogging where like, wait, my words matter so that other people might want to read them. Well, we wouldn't be doing a podcast if we didn't have a little navel gazy in us. You know what I mean?
That's true.
So
I do podcasts because other people want to do them, and I like to hang out with fun people like you.
Okay. Well, whatever makes it happen. That's all I care about. So yeah, dev blogging, I like it. Maybe it's, it's more my personality, the way I like to consume information. I don't know what it is, but I've kept up with it despite the schism in the internet where it wasn't cool anymore to blog, but I think it could come back. One more thing I wanted to mention that's really awesome for dev blogging is this thing called Indie Blog. I think it's indieblog.com or something like that.
Is that where you watch the Indiana Jones series and just it's like live stream of your thoughts?
Yes, exactly. But there's this other one that's got the same name but a different thing where you just submit that you have a blog, an indie blog, and by that I just mean any blog, and it puts it in a list, and then there's a button where you can click and it just takes you to a random one that's from the list. And so just give me a random person's blog, and most of the time I read a post and then I move on, but every now and then I find one that I want to keep reading because of all the reasons that I mentioned before. Not specifically dev, but there's definitely plenty of people writing about development on the internet in blogs. So that's a place I would recommend.
Cool.
So yeah, that's dev blogging. That's dev blogging. I think that wraps it up for this episode of Hacking the Grepson. We put a new episode out every other week on Wednesday. And until the next time we talk at you, we now return you to your regularly scheduled lives already in progress.